Hello guys, how's it going? My name is TAUREN. Today I'll be taking a look at the racials in Legion to figure out the best racials for PvP. Since the changes in Legion, everyone gets a free trinket. The basic trinket is a 3-minute cooldown, but can be upgraded with the PvP talent to a 2-minute cooldown, which is the trinket we all know and love. This change allows a lot more racial variety in WoW, making the Horde and Alliance a lot more equal in power and competitive for PvP than ever before. But let's take a look at both factions to see which has the strongest racials in the game as far as PvP is concerned. We're looking for a list, one for the Horde and one for Alliance, so both factions will be judged separately instead of going against head-to-head one another. A quick disclaimer before we continue into the video: this isn't a video telling you what you should play and giving you strict instructions. Technically you can play any class race combination and perform quite well at it. But if you are interested in something like min-maxing, then you might find this video interesting and useful, so hopefully you guys enjoy this video. I'll go over the Alliance races and then the Horde, and I'll make a visual graphic for you guys to take a look at. Let me know how you feel about my choices for today's video, and let's get into the show. I organized the races as done on the World of Warcraft website. I'm doing the Alliance first, then the Horde, and I'm going by the organization that Blizzard themselves have put forward on the website. So we're starting with Human. Human racial is fairly balanced racial since it deals with stuns. A lot like the Undead racial, the Human racial now breaks you out of stun effects, and it does lock you out of your trinket for 30 seconds after using the ability. The racial is probably one of the most balanced racials out there and can be used definitely very efficiently in arenas and duels. The reason Human is so balanced is because it doesn't really offer you a polarity, as the racial trinket can be used as a healer, as a caster, or as a melee DPS, which I'll be separating all the different roles into healers, casters, and DPS for melee. If anything, I would say if you are choosing to play something like a mage, Human racial might not be the greatest for you. Mages already have a way to get out of CC with a blink, so you can grab a variety of other racials in order to supplement whatever needs you might have as a mage. As far as Human is concerned, you can work any roles and you can serve any functions in the game. The next on the list are the Dwarves, and it's not really hard to tell the Dwarves are great healers. Damage reduction, dispel, the ability to drop off magical dots, diseases, curses, and bleed effects makes them a better healer than some of the other ones on the Alliance. In the past, the racial has been used to dispel your magical silences, which can still be done as Shadow Priests are moving up in the world of the PvP in beta. Nothing says Dwarves can't be good DPS. In fact, they can actually be pretty decent DPS, but the racial definitely makes them a super effective healer down the line. Night Elves usually are great healers and somewhat decent DPS in terms of their racials. Night Elves can use the ability of Shadow Meld to literally dodge certain spells and physical attacks. When a spell is flying in the Night Elf through the night sky, they use Shadow Meld in order to escape their aggressors, and the game renders them to be not physically there, dissipating the spell completely in midair. Healer Night Elves have been able to use Shadow Meld to dodge certain CC in arenas, making them super effective and gaining a foothold advantage over their foe in terms of cooldowns. DPS characters can also use it as well, but I feel that dodging CC as a healer is far more effective. Rogues definitely benefit from playing as a Night Elf because of the Vanish cooldown being for 2 minutes for both Assassination and Outlaw, and a 1.5 minute average for Subtlety Rogues. With no longer prep being available in the game, a rogue can use Shadow Meld in order to gain yourself a secondary Vanish, a bit more manual version of Vanish, but definitely nonetheless a Vanish. So rogues can definitely benefit from playing as a Night Elf. Gnomes. I feel like Gnomes make great healers and amazing melee DPS. First of all, you get 5% more resources to work with as warriors, DKs, hunters, rogues, and monks. 5% isn't a lot when you first look at it, but usually resources can translate into more value the more you build them and the more you spend them, equaling out for average a lot more damage that you can store on average. Their racial to break out of slows and roots every minute also allows them to get a more of a foothold on the foe, allowing a DPS character to basically have a lot more uptime on your enemy. So instead of having a warrior or death knight who can easily be rooted by a simple spell, they can simply break out of those roots every minute, which happens pretty often, and being able to stay on the target far more often. A very good combination together with the resources and the CC slow breakers and root breakers. Also, I feel like gnomes make great healers, since slows and roots aren't really affecting them in their positioning in terms of arenas, as well as the extra mana for healing is definitely a go-to. Ranged casters can also be a gnome, but someone like a warlock and mage don't benefit as highly from being a gnome and having extra mana, but healers and DPS characters with rage bars, energy bars, runic power, focus definitely do get a little bit extra benefit out of playing a gnome. Draenei feel their role as an off-heal in a double DPS 2v2 match, which is a very specific role. Having an extra self-reliability of healing as a DPS helps those who lack heals, kind of like a warrior or maybe even a hunter. Draeneis have extra stats for strength, agility, and intellect, literally allowing you to fill any role. You can be a caster, you can be a melee, or you can be a healer. As healers, Draenei bring an extra defensive cooldown with the gift of the Naru heal, making them even more competitive as a healer, but also allowing them to play basically any role in the game. And the final race we have for Alliance, besides the Pandaren, which we'll talk about at the end, are the Worgen. The Worgen movement speed increase doesn't really serve a major purpose in my opinion, and let me explain myself. It is not enough of a movement speed of an increase that makes a huge difference in mobility, but it can also be slowed, so it can be literally nullified in PvP. I don't think it is the greatest racial for PvP use if you're looking for a racial that you can use often and reliable. If anything, something like a warlock or a class with like zero mobility can benefit off the Worgen racial to give them a little bit more mobility once in a while. And the 1% crit increase does allow any DPS user that utilizes crit to its full potential to be able to technically go Worgen and have some damage benefit out of playing with a 1% extra crit. Now it's time for the Horde to shine, and Horde has gone through a lot of good changes and a lot of utility-based abilities, and I'm very much excited to see a lot more people playing Horde on the live servers. First one we'll be taking a look at is the spearhead of the Horde faction, the Orc. Well, actually I think the Undead are if you played the pre-patch event with Sylvanas, but let's still go on and look at the Orcs. Orc took the role of humans from Warlord Genre. Literally, Orcs are the only race with a guaranteed direct healing / damage increase. Their ability to reduce effectiveness of stuns, which are prevalent in PvP, is insane and grows with value the more often you are stunned. The ability to grant 1% increased damage to pets also calls for all pet-based classes to go Orc if you are on a Horde side. Any class or damage dealer or a healer can take the effect of an Orc in many PvP situations and be very, very viable. The next race we'll be talking about as going down the Blizzard list are the Undead, and I feel like the Undead are in a similar boat as humans, but their CC breaker just quite isn't as useful as a human CC breaker. If the PvP meta does shift towards heavy priest fears and heavy warlock fear kind of pressure in the arenas, then Undeads will definitely be one of the stronger choices in the game, but because there's far more classes that can utilize a stun rather than a fear, that makes the Undead racial very tricky. It all kind of depends on specific situations, as if like specific classes being played in PvP. Undead do bring something interesting to the table, especially for Affliction Warlocks, Shadow Priests, and Assassination Rogues. Touch of the Grave, which is a racial for the Undead, allows you to deal a little bit extra shadow damage and gain a bit of healing every time you deal damage to your foe, whether it be magical or physical. And with Affliction Warlock, Shadow Priest, and Assassination Rogues, you have multiple different sources ticking on one or multiple different targets, so you have far more chances to proc yourself a little bit extra of Touch of the Grave every single time. As an Assassination Rogue, you throw a plethora of dots at the enemy. Each single dot has a chance to proc the racial. Same thing goes for Affliction Warlocks and Shadow Priests. So if you're going to be playing Affliction Warlock, Shadow Priest, or Assassination Rogue in particular, and you are going to be going on the Horde side, I feel like checking out Undead might be a good choice in the near future. The next on the list are Trolls, and Trolls have a major haste buff. This buff is limited to casters with magic dots and very effective towards energy users. Haste will increase your energy regeneration, allowing rogues, monks, and ferals to take advantage of it. Magic users with magic dots will get a faster dot tick on their enemy, which helps out something like a Boomkin or an Affliction Warlock far more, as well as allows the extra haste to give you a bit faster casting on your spells. This haste can be utilized as a healer, of course, but a magic dot user and an energy based class can definitely take advantage of many aspects of haste to increase your attack speed and energy regeneration or cast and dot ticks. So as a troll, I would say as specific dot-based casters or even most agility users, you can utilize haste in order to get yourself a little bit of a foothold across the competition. And now for the big muscular lords of the Horde, the Huffed TAUREN, and TAUREN are very specific in my opinion, and you have to hear me out. I feel like TAUREN make for an incredible elemental shaman. Just the racials alone make an amazing LA shaman, and great healers of course. The crit effectiveness grants elemental shamans infinite damage value, since most of your damage is lava burst and all of it has a 100% chance to crit as long as you're using it properly, as well as the AoE stun allows you to deal with melee effectively without having the melee kill off your stun totem too early. Casters, like healers for the most part, can utilize the extra stamina to live a little bit longer. Even though it's not an amazing game changer, it is a little bit of extra health, and the AoE stun can be used to catch a quick breath of fresh air when getting trained by melee. The next on the list, and probably one of the best racials in the game, are the Blood Elves. Silence is an effect that is basically gone in the game. A lot more classes used to have easy access to silence, but now it is far more limited. As far as I know, the only classes and specs that have silence are Shadow Priests, Boomkins, Tank Demon Hunters, and Assassination Rogues. Assassination Rogues don't even have an easy access to silence either. You have to be in stealth in order to get the silence effect, so Vanishing for silence seems to be a little bit too excessive in my opinion. But Blood Elves bring back the silence effect, and it's pretty amazing. As a caster, as a healer, or as a melee, as any role in arenas, you can literally stop a cast and stop healers from recovering after training them with back-to-back stuns. A unique CC that is no longer as often seen in the game as it was, literally makes Blood Elves one of the strongest PvP races in the game, because in most PvP cases, as long as a DPS, or really anybody, if you can prevent a healer from casting with something like a silence after stunning them back to back to back with a train of stuns, you can literally win yourselves games. In most cases as a DPS, if you can kill a healer, you can kill just about anybody. Except maybe tanks. I as a rogue just kinda stealth away and avoid tanks altogether. Next on the list, and the final one for the Horde, are the Goblins, and the mobility effectiveness of Goblins is comparable to Worgen. Not a lot can be said there. What applies to Worgen basically applies to Goblin. Goblins do have a haste increase, so if you are playing a class that does benefit from haste and a slight bit of lack of mobility, the Goblin mobility can offer you just a little bit of a nudge forward, I guess. But for the most part, it's not enough to make amazing plays just by racial alone. So Goblins are kind of just like I feel like in the short end of the stick, somewhere along the lines of Worgen. The last on the list are PANDAREN, which I want to rate highly. I really do. I wish I could. As a rogue, we have Subtlety and Assassination Rogue that have lost Gouge, an ability that a lot of people thought, oh, Gouge, it's just I use it all the time. I don't think my gameplay would change much. And once you lose Gouge, you just realize just how amazing that ability is, and that's something that draw a few people to Outlaw Rogue because of the ability of Gouge. Without Gouge in your toolkit, it is sometimes hard to play as a rogue. In most cases, you wish you had the spell back. PANDAREN racial is basically a Gouge. But the problem is, I feel many melee can't really utilize this racial to its full extent because most of the melee cleave. That means they deal damage to a variety of enemies in front of them, and let's say you have two enemies in front of you, you incapacitate one of them with your Gouge, your racial Gouge as a PANDAREN. In most cases, you'll end up breaking that CC anyway, so I feel like it doesn't really serve too much of a purpose for most melee to even have an ability such as a Gouge, especially a racial on 2-minute cooldown. Healers can utilize this CC to a certain extent, but in most cases, on both Horde and Alliance, you already have some of the other better racials serve to be a better healer. You have a couple different choices on Alliance and a couple different choices on Horde, making PANDAREN less likely to be an effective of a healer as some of the other options. Of course, this video is all about min-maxing, so we are talking about maximizing utility. Technically, you can play PANDAREN and play whatever the hell you want to be. Don't let me stop you. I really want to pull this racial up, and I can't score it too highly. I really wish I couldn't. The racial definitely got better. Ever since the change of PvP and trinkets in Legion, this racial grew and got better exponentially all on its own. But the problem is, other racials also got pretty good ever since they basically gave away the human trinket to every race class combination in the game. And I just don't know how I feel about it, I guess. I just don't really... I wish I could rank it higher, but I can't. PANDAREN isn't bad, but it's not completely amazing when we're talking about complete, full viability for PvP. And that concludes my list, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. Again, do not allow this video to guide you in a specific direction of what you should choose to play and what you shouldn't choose to play in the future of Legion PvP. But just use this video with some helpful tips for min-maxing as well as good old-fashioned entertainment. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video, so I just want to say thank you guys. I really do appreciate you guys checking out the videos. The channel has been doing great. We've been growing, and just for all of you that made it to the end of the video, I didn't have to look up any Kotaku articles to make this list of my own. I just wrote my own script and made a video out of it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, hit the like button, and I'll see you guys in another video.